Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, I'm Sam and welcome to the ellierosepartydesigns community. In today's video we're going to be learning about how to make a chore chart in Photoshop and what settings I like to use and how you can do the same right at home. In last week's Photoshop Friday we dove into a little bit about using guidelines in our monthly calendar. Now we're going to do the exact same thing in this video, making our chore charts and using guidelines. So if you haven't checked out last week's tutorial, make sure you do. I will link it down below. Alrighty, so let's get started in this week's tutorial. So to get started, our presets that we'll be using is 11 by 8.5 inches, and our orientation is obviously going to be landscape. Okay, this is the one here we're going to be focusing on. Everything else is going to stay the same. I'm going to hit create and it is going to pop up our canvas, and there it is. Alright, so the first thing I would like to do is make some guidelines. So to do that, I am just going to create a little rectangle shape, and I'm going to go over here to my layers panel and create a new layer, and I'm going to just click onto my shape tool. If you can't see this shape, you just right click and it's the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to click left click once and a little screen is going to pop up, and I'm going to go 0.250 inches by say 2 inches. The height doesn't really matter, and I'm going to hit OK. I'm just going to change the color because I would like to be able to see my rectangle shape, and there it is there. Okay, now I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger by holding my shift key and dragging it down. Okay, and that is going to be my first layer. I'm going to drag my first ruler or guideline to just over here. Now if you can't find your guidelines and you find that they're not snapping in, please make sure to check out a view snap to, and that all of these are ticked and your snap is ticked. Okay, so and also if you can't find your ruler, you click over here and you make sure that your rulers are selected over here. Okay, so view and rulers is ticked. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click and I'm going to drag and make a guideline. There it is there. Now if you find that it's also not snapping, I find sometimes if I hit Control T on my shape, let's just go off for that, and I drag, I find it snaps in place a lot more easier too. Okay, now I'm just going to take my item and I'm going to pop you back in there. On the other side I'm going to do the same thing, snap it in there. There we go, it's snapped in. Alright, all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control and T again, make sure that you have selected that layer, and I'm just going to right click and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And now I'm just going to place it on top, and I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to snap that in place, and then I'm going to do the same thing, snap that at the bottom, and there you go. Alright, so that is my first layer. Now I'm going to just hide that one for now. So we're going to now create a new layer, and I'm going to be selecting the same shape tool, and now I'm going to be making a large rectangle shape that is about 10.5 inches by 5.5 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to hit OK. I have selected that shape, that color. Now let's just bring you in here. Now it should match from there to there. Okay, which is perfect. And then I'm just going to drag you down, so now that it matches up just at the bottom, and the rectangle shape is now hitting both of my guidelines. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that my corners are rounded, and to do that I am going to click onto my properties tool, make sure that that layer is selected, click onto my property tools. If you can't find that, go to Windows and make sure that properties is selected. Now we're going to go over here onto your properties panel, and I'm just going to click and drag that, and you'll see how the edges are now starting to curve. Alright, so let's just bring that to a nice curve. Let's go about there. Okay, and I'm liking that shape. Perfect. Alright, so there's a few things I want to do. The first thing I want to do is to take a guideline and put it in the center of my canvas, and you'll see why in just a minute. So let's just make sure it snaps into place. There we go. Alright, so that's snapped in there. Alright, so the next thing I would like to do is to place my, I might actually just double click on that and change that to guide line so that I know that that's for that. I'm just going to drag that to the front, and I am just going to Control T to highlight it, right click, and I'm going to, whoopsie, push the wrong button, rotate it clockwise, and I'm just going to bring it into the first guideline, and then I'm going to make another guide just there, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side, snap it into place, and do another guide. Alright, and let's turn that one off. Oh, what happened to my guide? Let's just redo that. Click and snap, and then take you off. Okay, so what happened to my other guideline? What happened to this one? Okay, so I just want to make another guide, and you will see why in just a minute why I'm doing that. So I'm just going to click onto a new layer. I'm going to select the rectangle tool shape again, and I'm just going to left click, and I'm going to change this to 0.527 inches. Okay, and then I'm just going to make that say 5 inches, not that it matters. Okay, so I am just going to left click. No, I am not. I am going to, sorry, hit Control T. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to hit the rotate 90-degree clockwise. And I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to place it just on top of, or in line with the top part of my blue rectangle shape. And I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag that all the way down, and then I'm going to do the same on this side. Now this might all seem like, what is she doing? But it will all make sense in just a minute. Alright, so now I'm just going to hide this guideline too. So let's just click guide, line, and hit enter, and let's hide you. Now I might actually just change the color of this for now so that we can actually see what we are doing. Let's just make it say, alright, I'll change it once I get all my clipart in that. Okay, now I did notice that for some reason that my rectangle shape had a dotted line, so I just had to remove that. Okay, so I'm now going to bring in my clipart, and I am going to be making a dinosaur theme. So this is the background layer that I'm going to be using. Let's click and drag you down. And there it is. I'm just going to hold the shift key so everything stays in proportion, and I'm just going to drag it out on either sides like that and hit enter to place. And I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag that to the bottom, so now it appears at the very back. Alrighty, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to bring in some of my clip art. That way I can start changing the colors and adding a few extra things. So the decorations I will be using, the clip art that I will be using will be, let's just see here, I'm going to go with you, and let me just make sure that that is a PNG file. That's a JPEG file, so I'm going to go with this one, which is my PNG file, and that one there, and I'll see if there's anything else in a little bit. So let's click and drag you into place. There he is there. I'm just going to minimize you and place you just on top here. He's a little cutie, and hit enter, and let's click and drag you and pop you about there. Also a cutie. Now I might actually just click onto you, hit Control T, and I'm going to just flip it over. Okay, so I'm facing that way. And sorry, I do want to make them a little bit bigger, but I'll do all of that later anyhow. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to start popping in my rectangle white squares. So my white my rectangle shapes and my white square shapes. First thing I'm going to be doing is creating a new layer and making sure I click onto the rectangle shape, and this time I'm going to make sure it is white with a white, or you can just pretty much click that you want no stroke around it. Okay, and I am going to make my long rectangle shape a width of 0.550 inches via 5 inches. No, sorry, wrong way around. Let's make you, the width is going to be 5 inches and my height is going to be 0.550 inches, and hit enter, and there it is there. And let's just place you in the middle. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that my rectangle shape pretty much met the middle of my guideline. So if you were using a different size paper, just make sure that your guideline is in the center of your canvas, and then create a rectangle shape that's going right across and meeting over there. Okay, so that's the only reason why I wanted that guideline there. So we can pretty much, I'll leave it there for now because I am going to be using, and I need another guide in just a minute, but that's the reason why I created that one. Okay, so I'm just going to click onto you, and I'm going to hit my properties, and I'm wanting to make the edges rounded. Let's have a look at that. Yep, I'm pretty happy with that. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is I am wanting to create about 7 rectangle shapes going from here to this guideline here. So to do that, the easiest way I find is I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to hold my shift key, and I'm going to drag this one all the way down so it snaps into place over here. Okay, I'm then going to do, so I've got 2 there, I need another 5, so I'm going to hit Control J to copy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, just 5. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of those rectangle shapes by hitting the shift key and clicking on all of those, and then we're going to go over here to our select tool or our move tool, and then I am going to hit this one here, which is just distribute vertically, and there you go. It's now place them all one underneath the other in the correct spacing. Okay, that's the reason why I find these guidelines over here work really well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop all of those into a folder. So I'm just going to click all of those and let's place them into a folder. So they're going to be my, let's call it the Chore lines, white lines. Okay, just whatever you want to call it, I don't know. Now I am going to click back onto my guide. A good suggestion I forgot to mention is that if you go guidelines and you actually place in the dimensions of it, it makes it a little bit easier for you to go back to it too. Okay, so this dimension here was 0.25 inches. Okay, that helped me with that one, and then this one here I believe was the big one. Yep, and we'll do the same with that guide lines, and this one was 0.527 inches. Okay, now I'm just going to take you and I'm going to place you right against those guidelines, and I'm going to click and make another guideline, and then I'm going to untick that one, and then this one here I can pretty much remove away now. I'm going to be adding in all my white boxes from here to there, and I like to have a bit of spacing between them. Okay, so we're now going to be adding in our white boxes. Okay, these are the Monday through to Sunday boxes, and to do that I'm just going to, once again, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to select my rectangle tool, and I am going to make my rectangle shape, which is technically going to be a square shape, but that's okay. The width is going to be 0.58 inches, and the height is 0.570. and hit enter. Okay, and I'm gonna make sure that the edges are slightly bit round, and let's have a look at that. Yep, perfect. And let's maneuver you, my friend, to there. Now that should be in line. Let's have a look and see. Yes, that is in line. Okay, what you could have done is duplicated one of these and just shrunk it down to the exact size that you wanted. Okay, so I'm just going to, and that's the reason why I made that guideline, because we're going to do the exact same thing over here that what we did over here. So I'm just going to click onto you, and I am going to duplicate that by either dragging it onto your create layer sign, or you hit Control J or Command J on a Mac. And I'm just going to hold the shift key, and I'm going to drag you all the way to the end. Okay, so now I'm going to duplicate another 5 more of those. So I'm going to hit Control J, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to select, and we're going to do everything we did over here. We're going to do the same one here. So making sure obviously that our squares are lined up and are touching the guidelines. And we're going to select the very last one and the very first one, hold the shift key and highlight them all. Making sure that we are clicked onto our move tool, and we're now going to click onto this one right here, which is the distribute horizontally. Okay, and it's now going to make spaces equally between them. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am now going to group those all together, and I'm going to call that, let's just call that white weekly squares, I don't know, whatever. But I'm actually going to untick that, and I'm going to make a duplicate of it. All right, and you'll see why in just a minute. So let's go over here, and I'm just going to highlight all of those again. Let's the copy file, I've just put the eyeball tool back on. Okay, and I'm just going to hit right click, and we're going to merge the shapes together. Now all of those layers have now formed to one layer. Okay, so if you just untick this layer here, they're all going to go off. Okay, so they've all been merged as one layer. Okay, the reason why I made a duplicate copy is so that if anything happened, I don't have to recreate it. I've already got a copy of it there. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is let's highlight that, and I need to make 7 of those. So I'm just going to click over here, and I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to hit shift, and I'm going to drag that down to the bottom layer, and we're going to make another 7 more. So Control J, 1, 2, 3. All right, and let's highlight all of those, and we're going to go over here, and we're going to distribute them vertically, and there are all our lines. Okay, perfect. So you're getting the idea on why I like my guidelines so much. All right, so we're now going to add in our text. So let's click onto a new layer, and we're going to click onto the text tool, and I am going to be going for sweet and salty. I can't remember where I got this file from. If I do figure it out, I will mention it down below in the link. And we are going to make that 24 inches, and I'm going to keep it black. So let's make this in capital letters, and we're going to write chores, and we're going to pop you, say, in the middle. Might make that a little bit, sorry, we might make that a little bit bigger, and let's once again put it in the middle, just about there. And I'm now going to pop in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's click and duplicate that, and hit the shift key and drag that to about there. And let's type in Monday. Now I've got a feeling that that might be a little bit too big for, yes. So let's just make you slightly bit smaller, make it a little bigger. And let's see. Yep, that could work. Alright, so let's just duplicate that and move you. Okay, now I'm going to be adding in some details at the bottom there, so like your reward and if you're having a point system or whatever. Okay. So finishing up, we are going to, I'm just going to pop all of these in their own little folder, and I'm just going to say text, so I know that that's where all of those belong. And we're going to add in our headings. So I am going to click onto the text tool, and I'm going to use one of my favorite tools, which favorite fonts, which is called Bonfire, and I'm going to pop in my son's name, Cody's. Now of course this needs to be big, probably too big. Let's drag you and make sure you're in the center, which is about there. I'm going to put an offset around that, so let's go over here and I'm going to hit the stroke. Sorry, stroke, I call it offset. Let's just make it slightly bit bigger. Okay, about there, perfect. Now let's duplicate that, and I might change that to say rewards, and I might make you smaller, and let's bring you in about there. Might just make that slightly bit smaller, and I might make you say a red color. Actually, you know what, once I've brought in all of my clip art, I'll change the colors then. So let's just grab another one and rewards chart, and hold the shift key, and let's drag you out about there. Might make him a little bit smaller, and let's just drag you up here. And then I might do the same with you. I think I made them a little bit too big. Okay. Now I think what I'm going to do is, this is going to be a blue. Okay. And I'm going to add in a few extra clip arts on either side. Let's go back over here and let's pick which ones we're going to use. I'm going to go with you and probably you. Let's drag you guys in, make you a lot smaller, and make you a lot smaller, and let's drag you up here, and Control T to highlight you. Let's drag you up here to about there. And I'm gonna get, let's have a look and see if I've got, let's click onto you and bring you in too, and drag and make you smaller, and we're gonna pop you about there. Let's rotate you. Might just make him a little bit smaller, and let's duplicate you again, and let's pop you, say about there, making sure that you are in front. Okay, you'll see what I'm going to do about that in a minute. Might just add a few little things behind him too. Let's go with this orange. See how that's going to look. Yep. Okay, I'm going to have two of those, and just pop you about there, and one about there, making sure that you go in front. So alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to put a stroke around all of these just to make them pop a little bit more. So let's go to stroke, and I might just decrease you slightly. to about 13. Now with this raw, I think I might change the colors with that one. So we're just going to zoom in here. Let's just go here. All right, so I might change the, yeah, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to select the paint bucket tool, and I'm going to click on my foreground color, and I'm going to double click and select this red, and then I'm going to make sure that my raw clip art is being selected, and I'm just going to click onto you, just zoom a little bit closer so that I can see what I'm doing, and there's a little part over there, and then I'm going to do the same thing on you like that. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to do is just maybe give him like a little egg or something to hold. So let's go over here and see what eggs I've got. I'm going to go with this one here. And let's reduce the size because it is fairly big. Now this is a JPEG file, as you can see, because it's got a white background, and I'll show you exactly what you can do to remove that background. So we're going to go over here, making sure that our layer is selected. Click onto the magic wand tool. If you don't see it, you right click, and it is this one here, the magic erase tool, and we're going to click onto our clip art, hit OK, and click there, and we've now removed the background. So let's hit Control T and let's minimize it to say about there. Let's drag you to about there, and let's bring you to the front, and there it is there. So I'll make you go down. Okay. Oh, another thing I wanted to do is I wanted to change that color, didn't I? So let's go ahead and change that to red, and then I might change you green. So let's highlight you and let's select green. Perfect. Okay, and there we go. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to change. No, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so throughout the whole process, I keep forgetting to remind you guys, but I do this when I do my own designing, and that is to always save your work. So we're gonna, wherever you want to save it, you click on to you enter in your file name, make sure that it is a Photoshop design, and you hit save. Okay, now I've already done that, so I'm not going to actually click onto that, but that's how you would do that. And making sure also that your layers are there and that they haven't been flattened or anything, okay? Because once you save the PDF and the PSD file and it's been flattened, you can't bring it back. So make sure that it is all on its the file, sorry, the layers are all there. Okay, once you've saved your PSD file, we're now going to go ahead and select layers, and we're going to flatten the image. It's now formed one layer. Okay, so that's what you would need to do in order to save it as a PDF file or as a JPEG file, PNG file. It makes the file a lot smaller. Click onto File, we're going to save as, and we're going to now save this as, now this is where it's up to you. If you're putting this on a blog or if you're going to sell this design, I would suggest that you save it as a PDF file. Okay, and to do that, we just click on to Photoshop PDF. There it is there, and I'm just going to select and say dinosaur chore chart. Okay, and then hit OK, and then a pop-up box is going to come up. I unselect those and I hit save. All right, I then going to go ahead and make sure, you see over here how it's got this little asterisk that tells you that your PSD file has been amended, so you need to go ahead and save it again. So I'm just going to click onto my history, icon. If you can't see that, once again, go to Windows and make sure that your history tab has, or your history has been selected. All right, and then I'm just going to go to the previous settings, which was that one, and it's brought back all my layers. I'm then going to go back over to File, Save As, and save my design. All right, and then you'll notice how that asterisk has now disappeared. Okay, and that is what my PDF file looks like. But that is pretty much the end of this video. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful and you will give it a go at making your own chore charts. I would love to see what you guys have created. Let me know in the comment sections down below. And in next week's video, a little surprise, we're going to be making some little coupon booklets, and the theme is going to be Valentine's Day. So make sure to check that out. And I will see you next week. Thanks, guys.